Here you are, y'all. Me and Justin back again, like a 1-2, bam, bam. Okay. Justin was going to be with us tomorrow at the Back to the Land Festival, but he can't make it for a whole number of reasons. Milk Boy's over there crying, and anybody that's coming out, y'all, they're gonna eat some of this. Okay, this is the male, or the boar, American guinea hog that we had out back. Okay, well, thank God. I'm glad Justin is here every time he comes by for a number of reasons. Number one, his daughter is in there being spoiled rotten by Michelle. And number two, here's, folks, I wish we got this on video, but I'm kind of glad we didn't. When we shot him, and by the way, I'm laughing, y'all, but hey, this is a sacred act, okay? It's very sacred to us when we take life, no matter the reason, no matter what. We're not those people that are just going to go out there and harvest things and not think anything about it. We thank the good Lord for all these blessings, and this is one of them right here. Ain't that? Can I get an amen, brother?
Amen, brother.
That's right. Well, anyway, Justin came by just in the nick of time, because when William dispatched him, it was on the top of this mountain. By the time he was done rolling, he was at the bottom of the mountain. So when we saw Justin pulling up the drive, we were like, okay, yeah, I'm glad he's here, because I don't know how we're going to get him up. So anyhow, he got a little dirty getting down there, because we had to field dress him down there. The idea was to go ahead and dispatch him, get him over here, hang him on Michelle's squat rack, which she doesn't know about yet. Hang him on the squat rack, and then we're going to cut him down the sagittal plane, which is basically saying right down the middle. So anyway, Justin came over, and just in the nick of time. Thank you very much, my brother.
You're welcome anytime.
Now, does that happen often in the mountains where you make a shot on something?
I mean, it has happened before. It ain't something that's never happens, that's for sure, but yeah.
Good night. Hey, y'all, lesson today, make sure that your animal's on as level ground as you can find, because he sat there rolling away from us, and, you know, hey, it is what it is, but Justin came by in the nick of time, filled up a couple of buckets. Let's just kind of pan over here real quick, folks, just to get a brief. We got all the stuff in the buckets here, the guts, all that stuff. Guess where it's going? Remember, this is permaculture. We don't waste anything. Ain't that right, brother?
Yeah, that's it. I'm learning more and more every day about it.
That's right. So what most people consider a waste is going to be a food source for our chickens down the way, and they are going to strip that clean, I guarantee you. Now, one big hole in our game around here is that we don't yet know how to tan hide, and that's a skill I hope to acquire. I mean, maybe this good man here with all this mountain knowledge can get us tightened up on that.
Well, I'm kind of like you. I've always wanted to try it, so we might just learn together.
Hey.
The closest thing I've ever done is when I was a boy. I remember as a couple of ground squirrels got run over in the road, and I skinned them out and tacked their hide on the board. And that's about my extent of hide tan.
Yeah, so much for that brain tanning method.
Right.
So, hey, y'all, the cool thing about all this, we'll mosey on back here. So at this point, the only thing we're going to do now, because of our time constraints at the Back to the Land Festival, the idea initially was to go ahead and bring them in live, do it all right there. But because of time constraints, it didn't make a whole lot of sense. So what we will do on this video is basically we'll cut them down the sagittal plane. We got sawzalls, we got band saws, we got all that stuff. But every time I do demonstrations, we do it by hand. Because anybody can operate a bandsaw and a sawzall, but you know what? It takes a little muscle memory to be able to do this with a real deal saw. And plus, that's something everybody can access. So only thing left to do, we'll cut off the trotters. These are your trotters right here, right? We'll make some hog maw, pig feet, all that, all kinds of good stuff with that. So we'll cut them down the middle. We'll cool them overnight, and then first thing in the morning, we're going to get on the first thing smoking. Put them in this giant cooler over there, ice them down. When we get there, we're going to break down each side into the primals, then the subprimals, and guess what? Bon appetit. It's on. We're going to cook this bad boy.
I'm going to be crying, too.
It's all right, brother. You know what we got? Hey, you know what we're going to save for you?
Keep looking to the future.
Hey, you know what ain't going to the Back to the Land Festival? Hey, y'all, check this out. See this here? That's leaf lard. Surrounds the kidneys. That is where the best fat on planet Earth. Now, Justin, he ain't gonna be able to partake in, consuming this part, but I guarantee with all the biscuits and everything else Michelle intends to make, he'll be getting his share of it.
That's gonna be on the forefront this weekend for me. Looking to the future.
That's right. That's right. So we're gonna get that done. So now we'll cut off the trotters, get the bone saw, split them down the middle, and it's off. Hey, another little trick, y'all, that we always do up here, a little side note, is we always zip tie. I mean, we got them through the hock. It's okay, no problem with that. But typically, we always put zip ties on there on the gambrel, so when you do cut it and it doesn't fall evenly, it'll just slide right off the end of there. This way, it ain't going nowhere. It's caught up in here. It could teeter-totter all day long and it's not gonna fall off, so that's a good thing there. Okay, with that said, we're gonna go ahead and cut them down the middle and then we're off and running. All right, y'all, there ain't nothing difficult about this. In fact, in the future, Jason from Sow the Land, we're gonna do an instructional video, start to finish, on how to do this. He's much better at filming and editing and making this thing in a way that's gonna make more sense. I mean, paint by numbers kind of stuff. Folks, I know this seems intimidating, but it really, really isn't, especially when you put your hands on it. But even if you're watching me and you're at home doing it step by step, it can be done. Just go back and watch that comprehensive pig video we did before. We explain all the cuts. We do it in great detail. Now, the best way to go about this, at least from where I'm standing, is when I got it, the meat is generally cooled off. When I cut it down the sagittal plane, you can do a couple of things. You can take your knife and run, because let's say you can't see it. Now, in here, you can see the backbone just fine. If you need to do that, go ahead. It's gonna help you a little bit. Get through the tailbone, right through the hip, and then bam, right here's your loins. Those are your tenderloins right there. Leaf lard, of course your ribs, all that kind of stuff. Okay, now because this guinea hog, we got him a little bit too big. This is our first time raising guinea hogs, and I really had no idea. Most pigs, I mean, they're just very, very different. They have their benefits, but they also have their drawbacks. One of them being that, honestly, by and large, you almost don't need to feed them. And, you know, the less we fed them, the better they did, it seemed. So next time out, we'll try a little something different. Now, when you got a fat ring that thick, what you want to try to do, and you can, because your bone saw, you only want that bone saw to cut bone, okay? If it's a cleaver, it's less of a concern. But the problem with a cleaver right now is the tang on my cleaver doesn't go all the way up the handle, and basically it's broken. So you can basically, if you want, if you have a good enough eye, you can run that knife all the way down. I got a little bit off there, but it ain't gonna matter, because a lot of that I'm gonna trim anyway. I can tell I'm riding on the side of the backbone there. It's not even necessary by and large, but when you have a fat ring that's 3 inches thick like it is on this pig, you're gonna wanna do it because your bone saw is gonna mangle all that up. All right, with that said, let me get the bone saw. A lot of people have asked, what do I use for a bone saw? I always use for a pig, you don't need anything longer than a 17.5. In fact, that's even long, but I'm not sure Camlock makes anything smaller. But this is my go-to right here. Now, you can set it up to where the, I get this question a lot, actually. As far as knives, just go get yourself a Victorinox starter kit, very good set of knives, and get you a Camlock, and if you can, also get yourself a cleaver. Now, this is where it's weird, because as an electrician, I'm used to my hacksaw when I use it to cut when I'm pushing forward. A lot of people like it cutting backwards. I got this one set up for the first time. I got myself used to where it cuts on when I pull it to me. This one here, I got to set up the other way to see if I can make it work the way it does when I'm doing electric work. But here we go. If you have to, instead of starting up here and you get all sideways, if you have to, start here where the hip starts to go up. You can start your cut there and then lean your saw into it. See that? Okay, so I got kind of a foothold there, right? I can start there at that hip. Now I'm gonna aim my saw back this way. That way, I'm sure to get a straight cut down the middle of it. Now, this blade is touch and go. And then now, all you need to do is follow that all the way down. Now, it takes a little bit of time. If you need to, get some help. And this is where, if you don't have this secured onto your gambrel, they got better gambrels out there, but if you got one of the cheap ones like this, if you don't have it secured, if one side drops before the other, you're gonna be picking it up off the ground. So keep that in mind. Well, I got him right down the spinal cord. Look at that. bit, but it won't matter because we're gonna make chops out of this whole thing. So now that I got it done, we hit it so good up here. Check it out, y'all. We cut the spinal cord in half. You know why? Because this is how we do it. That's right. William hates it when I do that corny stuff. But, okay, now that we got them down the middle, you want to try to spray them down because that bone dust. Look, there's a lot of folks that use their bone saw a lot, and you're going to find out, those of you that check out how we process this, we use the bone sauce. We got that for sale, by the way. We use the bone saw as little as possible because every time you cut a bone, there's an opportunity to introduce infection. We don't want that. So we're going to spray it down again, and then now we'll take them just like this. We'll put them in the freezer, not in the freezer, but in the fridge. This whole thing will harden up, and then it's off to the races. So let me go ahead and do that. And we're going to get that spinal cord out of there. And we got to do all this before Michelle finds out that her little workout rack just got used for something that was not intended. Okay, now that we're at it, now you can take your honing steel and pull. If you take your honing steel and run it down the middle of that spine, you can see I cut it right dead down the middle. This here's the spinal cord. I can sit here and yank it out. Now, it's harder to do by hand, but if you take your honing steel, no matter the animal, I don't know why it's made that, maybe it's made that way intentionally, but that'll pull right out of there. Now, Milk Boy is gonna love that. Now, we'll worry about the glands and stuff that are in here when I'm teaching the class. But folks, this is it. I mean, this is stuff, I would love to be able to do this at a conference, but honestly, this is an all-day, not an all-day thing. It is when you're doing instruction. William and I, usually at this point, we can get through an entire half in under 30 minutes, and I'm talking put in the freezer, just because we got a lot of practice doing it. So, we're letting this tighten up, and then bon appetit tomorrow, y'all. So, until tomorrow, until next time, this is Billy from Perma Pastures Farm, where permaculture is my passion. Better still, this is the byproduct of good permaculture, if you ask me. We'll see y'all next time.